At 2:14 in the morning, a woman entered my mother's living room, lifted her wedding ring from a blue ceramic dish, and hid it in the pantry. 6 hours earlier, I had accused my mother's nurse of stealing that ring, but the woman on the screen wasn't the nurse. She was me. I didn't look confused, I looked deliberate, and I had no memory of being there. 6 days earlier, the first thing my mother said when I entered her bedroom was, "My ring is gone again." She was sitting against 2 pillows with her right hand on a folded towel. 7 weeks had passed since the stroke, but that hand still swelled by afternoon. The wedding ring had left a red line beneath her knuckle. It was gold with 3 tiny stones, one slightly larger than the others, and she had worn it for more than 50 years. A photograph of my father stood on the nightstand. He had been gone 4 years, but each morning she still turned the frame toward the bed and touched the ring before reaching for her glasses. Its dollar value was not why its absence changed the room. "It can't be gone again," I said. That was how I answered impossible things. I corrected them before I considered them. "My name is Claire Bennett. I was 58 on leave from my job as an operations manager and sleeping in my mother's guest room. Her appointments were in my phone, her medication was locked, and my laptop and insurance folders covered the chair beside her window. A home health registered nurse named Tessa Morales visited 3 times a week. Tessa handled the clinical care. I handled everything else. Tessa helped me take it off yesterday, my mother said. She put it in the blue dish. The dish sat on the living room console beside a clear treatment caddy. I had bought it after the ring disappeared 2 weeks earlier and turned up in the linen drawer. This time the dish was empty. I lifted the gauze and tape from the caddy. The ring rolled out and tapped the wood. "Found it." My mother came to the doorway with her cane. She looked at the ring in my palm, then at the open caddy. "You put it there," she said. "Tessa must have dropped it in with her supplies." "She put it in the dish. You moved it after she left." "I wasn't here after she left." "Yes, you were." I could picture the pharmacy receipt in my purse and the groceries on the kitchen counter. I could not picture touching the ring. That made my schedule feel more reliable than her face. "Don't worry," I said. "The stroke has made time slippery. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong." Her mouth tightened. "It has not made yesterday disappear." My sister Rachel called and offered again to stay for the weekend. "We're fine," I told her. "I've got it covered." My mother heard me, looked toward the chair buried beneath my files, and returned to her bedroom without asking for the ring. Tessa arrived before noon. She was 46, compact, and precise enough to make ordinary actions look documented. She greeted my mother first, asked permission to examine the swollen hand, and waited until my mother was with the physical therapist before speaking to me. I placed the ring on the kitchen table. "Where did you leave this?" "In the blue dish with Evelyn's permission." "I found it under gauze in your caddy." Tessa opened the agency tablet and turned the prior visit note toward me. It recorded the swelling, my mother's request for help removing the ring, and the blue dish. A message beneath it showed that she had sent the same information to me before leaving. My reply read, "Got it, thank you." "Then how did it get into your supplies?" I asked. "Who entered the room after my visit?" "Only family." "Then we need to document who moves it." "My mother thinks I was here when I wasn't." Tessa closed the tablet. "I'll document your mother's statement even when you disagree with it." The words were professionally correct and personally cold. I heard a warning inside them. If I questioned her, she would turn the record against me. Over the next 2 days, every confirmation Tessa sent looked like another layer of protection around herself. Ring in dish, swelling improved, ring left off for comfort. She requested a family meeting with Rachel, saying more than one relative should understand the care plan. I declined. Teaching Rachel the system would take time I did not have. "You could let her learn," my mother said. "Don't worry, I can manage it." The following evening, my mother called me into the living room. The blue dish was empty again. Tessa had visited that afternoon. Her message said my mother tried the ring, felt pressure in her swollen finger, and asked to remove it. Ring returned to blue dish with Evelyn present. "Did you see her put it there?" I asked. "Yes." "Did anyone come in after?" "You did." I opened the caddy. The ring was beside a roll of paper tape. The first time could have been careless handling. The second time, in the same container, after Tessa had created a written record saying she left it elsewhere, felt deliberate. At 8:14 that evening, I called the agency and reported suspected theft. The supervisor asked whether I had evidence that Tessa placed the ring in her supplies. She was the last person who handled it. My mother spoke behind me. No, she wasn't. I moved into the kitchen and lowered my voice. I described the two discoveries and Tessa's messages. The supervisor said Tessa would be temporarily removed from my mother's case while the agency reviewed the complaint. Another nurse would cover necessary care. When I returned, my mother was staring at the ring in my hand. "You shouldn't have done that," she said. "I'm protecting you." From the person who believed me? I was too angry to ask what she meant. A new camera had been sitting unopened on the kitchen counter since the first disagreement. I installed it on a shelf facing the living room console and front entry. It was visible from the doorway, recorded video only to a local card, and had its microphone disabled. It captured no bedroom, bathroom, or personal care area. My mother watched me adjust the angle. "And then you'll believe what you see?" "Yes." She consented. I posted a notice by the front door and notified the agency. Tessa received the notice even though she was no longer scheduled for the next visit. At 8:30, I placed the ring in the blue dish. I told myself I was returning it to its proper place. I was setting bait. At 9:10, I activated the camera. Before bed, I checked that the ring was visible beneath the lamp. At 2:14 in the morning, the camera detected motion. I did not see the alert until 6:40. For one hopeful second, the time itself felt like proof. Someone had entered after we went to bed. I opened the recording. The living room appeared in gray night vision. The front door stayed closed. A woman entered from the hallway wearing a loose white shirt and dark pants. Her hair was pulled back. She crossed directly to the console, looked toward my mother's bedroom, and lifted the ring from the dish. She tore a tissue from the box beside the couch, folded the ring inside it, and carried it toward the pantry. There was no wandering, no confusion, and no hesitation. When she turned, light from the microwave reached her face. It was mine. I checked the continuous file. The room had been empty before I entered. The front door had not opened. I compared the clothes on the screen with the white shirt and dark pants I was still wearing. There was no second woman and no missing section of video. There was only me moving like a person who knew exactly what she intended to do. In the bathroom mirror, I matched the loose hair and the stiff knee I favored when turning. Nothing in the footage gave me the comfort of looking dazed. The house remained ordinary around me, which made the missing minute harder to dismiss. It had happened inside the life I believed I was controlling. I went to the pantry. On the upper shelf were flour, coffee, canned soup, and a tin of tea. The ring was inside the tin, wrapped in tissue. I held it and waited for a memory to arrive. The pantry handle, the tissue against my fingers, a reason for looking toward my mother's room. Nothing came. My mother was standing in the doorway when I turned around. "What are you doing?" I closed my fingers around the ring. I found it. She looked at the open tea tin. "That's where you put things when you're afraid someone will take them." "I don't put things there." "You put your father's watch there after the funeral, and the envelope with the house papers." Those memories were real and complete. I remembered wrapping the watch in a handkerchief while relatives moved through the house. I remembered hiding the papers until the attorney arrived. But I had checked the ring before bed. I had been certain it was still in the dish. That certainty frightened me more than an ordinary blank. I did not feel as if I had forgotten to check the dish. I carried a clear memory of seeing the ring there, and the camera showed that the memory was no longer true by the time I went to sleep. My mind had not warned me that anything was missing. "Did you see me last night?" I asked. "No." "Then you don't know how it got there." She looked at my closed hand. "You do." That answer should have angered me. Instead, it made the kitchen feel too small. The recording could establish that no one came through the door and that I carried the ring to the pantry. It could not tell me whether I was fully awake, why I had done it, or why the entire minute was absent from my memory. The way I moved looked purposeful, but purposeful movement was not a diagnosis. The theft question was over. A worse question took its place. What else had I done without remembering it? I cut a short clip beginning when I entered the room and ending as I reached the pantry. My thumb hovered over Rachel's name. The clip showed the part that frightened me. It did not show the empty room before I appeared, or the closed door afterward. I had spent days reading concealment into Tessa's written record, and now I was reducing my own evidence before anyone else could interpret it. I sent the clip anyway. As soon as the message left, I understood why I had chosen that version. The short clip let me confess the frightening fact while preserving control over its meaning. It said I had taken the ring. It did not show that every easier suspect had been excluded. I could still call the event isolated before anyone else saw the evidence that made isolation less comfortable. Rachel called before it finished uploading. "Is that you?" "It looks like me." Claire, is it you? Yes. Send the full recording. You don't need 6 hours of an empty room. Then why did you cut it? What aren't you showing me? Her question struck harder than the image. I sent the continuous file. Then I called the agency. I said I had new evidence and needed the supervisor to speak with me before completing the investigation. I still did not retract the complaint. Part of me wanted the video to prove only that I had moved the ring that night. It did not yet explain how the ring had reached Tessa's caddy on the earlier occasions. Rachel arrived before 8 with unbrushed hair, a laptop bag, and a paper pharmacy folder. Where's Mom? Getting dressed. Where's the ring? I opened my hand. Put it back in the dish. Why? Because it belongs to Mom. I set it down. Rachel did not play the video again. She had watched the continuous file before leaving home. She checked the file details, compared the camera time with the alert, and then closed the laptop. She was not trying to prove the woman was me. She was trying to understand why I had sent her less than I possessed. If the full recording helps you, I said, why are you looking at me like I lied? Because you accused a nurse on the basis of where a ring was found. Then you found evidence about yourself and edited the context before sending it. I need to know whether you were protecting your privacy or protecting your conclusion. I had no answer that did not sound like both. Do you remember getting up? She asked. No. Have you had gaps before? Everyone forgets things when they're exhausted. That wasn't my question. My mother entered wearing a blue blouse buttoned one button off near the collar. I stepped forward to fix it. She moved away from my hand. Rachel can help me. Rachel corrected the button and asked what she wanted for breakfast. Neither of them looked at me. It was the first consequence of the video, and no doctor or agency had imposed it. My mother no longer trusted my hands near something as small as a button. The replacement nurse arrived at 8:30. She knew only that Tessa was unavailable during an agency review. She examined my mother's swollen hand, checked the current care record, and asked my mother every question before turning to either daughter. I watched her movements the way I had watched Tessa's. The habit of suspicion remained even after the suspect had changed. When the nurse reached the medication lockbox, Rachel placed the pharmacy folder on the table. Before anyone changes a thing, she said, we need to look at what you sent Tessa. She took out 2 schedules with the same header, the same list, and my name at the bottom. One had been emailed from my account on Tuesday afternoon. The second had been sent the following day. A single item appeared at different times. The first page carried a small coffee stain near the corner. I remembered printing it. I remembered setting it beside the lockbox while my mother ate lunch. The email itself was missing from the day in my mind, as though the paper had appeared without the action that sent it. The second one is correct, I said. The first must have been an old draft. Do you remember sending it? I remembered making the Wednesday schedule after a call from the doctor's office. I remembered checking the margins before attaching it. Tuesday was blank. I might have sent the wrong file, I said. Rachel opened the message history. Tessa had asked which schedule reflected the provider's instruction. I had replied from my phone that the newer one did. Less than an hour later, she asked whether I had direct confirmation. There was no answer from me. I remember the doctor's office calling, I said. They changed the time. Do you remember who called? I searched for a name, a voice, or even the place where I had stood during the conversation. What came back was the certainty of having been told, not the call itself. The replacement nurse called the number in the verified record while we waited. The staff member confirmed that no new instruction had been issued. The older schedule remained current. I asked her to check once more under my mother's full name and date of birth. She did. The answer was the same. What I remembered as a call from the office may have been an assumption I repeated until it took on the shape of a conversation. The replacement nurse compared both pages with the verified agency record. We're keeping the confirmed time until the prescribing office gives us a new instruction. That's what Tessa did, Rachel said. She showed me the email chain. After receiving the second schedule, Tessa had replied that it conflicted with the first. She paused that part of the plan, contacted the agency, and requested confirmation. There had been no missed dose, no repeated dose, and no unverified change. Then no harm was done, I said. Because she stopped it, Rachel replied. The nurse closed the lockbox without changing anything. I recognized the movement. Tessa had done the same thing while I accused her of turning a clerical error into a safety event. The danger had not been a dramatic overdose or a medical crisis. It was quieter and more credible than that. One instruction from a daughter everyone trusted could have replaced a verified plan. The only reason it had not was that the nurse I distrusted refused to treat my confidence as authorization. She also copied me on a request for a family meeting, Rachel said. You declined it. You didn't know the plan. I could have learned it. I've spent 5 weeks learning every provider, every instruction, and every way Mom's schedule can fall apart. You've been here for an hour. Rachel flinched, but she did not retreat. You're right. I let you carry it because you were good at it, and because letting you carry it was easier for me. I should have been here more. The admission took away the argument I was prepared to have. I wanted her to defend herself so I could prove she was unqualified. Instead, she accepted a failure without surrendering the point. Part of me still resented how easily she could admit that failure after I had absorbed the nights, the paperwork, and every anxious call. Her honesty did not make the workload equal. It did make one difference clear. Rachel was willing to name the weakness in her role. I was still using my labor to deny the weakness in mine. My mother folded the newspaper. I asked both of you to stop talking about me as if I had left the room. Rachel turned to her immediately. You're right. What do you remember about Thursday? My mother described the rain, the therapist at the door, and the soup she ate when we returned. Then she described me appearing with my keys that afternoon and becoming irritated when she refused to leave. I remembered both moments. I had trusted a Friday entry on my paper calendar and decided she had mixed up the days. The provider portal showed that Friday appointment had been canceled weeks earlier. Her story hadn't changed. What changed was how much I trusted it. The calendar was wrong, I said. Who manages it? I do. Rachel placed the 2 schedules beside the ring. What if Mom isn't the only person forgetting? I stood so quickly that the chair scraped the floor. 1 video and 1 attachment don't erase everything I've done right. No, she said, but everything you've done right doesn't erase the video. My mother lowered the newspaper. She did not look confused. She looked exhausted by both of us. The agency supervisor called before 9:30. I put the phone on speaker. She said Tessa would remain off the case while the complaint was reviewed, and that replacement coverage would continue. She asked for the complete camera file. I'll send it, I said. We also need Evelyn's authorization before discussing the relevant clinical notes with both daughters. These are her care records, not Tessa's personnel file. I'm her healthcare surrogate. Your mother is able to authorize access for herself. My mother moved closer to the phone. I authorize it. Rachel and Claire can hear the notes. Please confirm that this is your choice, the supervisor said. It is, and I want both of them to listen without answering for me. Rachel sat back. I placed both hands flat on the table. My mother's authority did not arrive from the agency's question. The question merely forced me to see that it had never left. The supervisor confirmed her identity and documented the permission. I had been using my future role as if it replaced my mother's present voice. The correction was quiet and absolute. There is one more thing, the supervisor said. A safety note was entered before the theft complaint. It concerns conflicting caregiver instructions and a statement from Evelyn. What statement? We will review it tomorrow with its context. If it concerns me, I want it now. It concerns your mother's care. The line ended with the meeting scheduled for the next morning. The note was in my mother's record, in her own words, and it had been written before I accused anyone. That night I recovered pieces of Tuesday, reheated soup, my mother's wet hair, an argument with a billing office. The email carrying my signature remained missing. At the care review the next morning, my mother sat between Rachel and me. Tessa was not present. The agency supervisor said we would review only the clinical information my mother had authorized. I need to know why Tessa put the ring in her supplies, I said. My mother turned toward me. She didn't. The supervisor gave us 3 timestamps. First, before any suspicion, Tessa recorded that my mother requested help removing the ring, understood why it should stay off, and watched it go into the blue dish. Second, after the first caddy discovery, Tessa documented the changed location and requested a family meeting. Third, before my complaint, she stopped the conflicting schedule and contacted the agency. The dates changed the meaning of everything I had called defensive. Tessa documented my mother's account and raised a safety concern before she had any reason to protect herself from me. There was also a call to you, the supervisor said. Wednesday at 4:12 in the afternoon. A voicemail was left. I opened my phone. The agency number was there. Beneath it was the symbol for voicemail. The message was 28 seconds long. Tessa asked me not to alter the schedule until the prescribing office confirmed it. She requested a return call and repeated her recommendation that Rachel join the care meeting. The phone marked the message as played. I did not remember hearing a word of it. Someone could have opened it accidentally, I said. No one answered. The supervisor moved to the final note. Tessa entered this after a private conversation with Evelyn, which is a routine part of care. It reads, Evelyn states that Claire moved the ring for safekeeping and may not recall doing so. The language was restrained. It did not say I stole anything. It did not offer a diagnosis. It preserved what my mother said and left room for what Tessa could not know. That was written before my complaint? I asked. Yes, the note was completed that afternoon. Your call was received at 8:14 that evening. I looked at my mother. You told Tessa I moved it? I told you first. The 6 words removed the last version of the story in which I had merely misunderstood a nurse. My mother had told me in her bedroom. She had told me beside the caddy. She had told me again when the ring disappeared the second time. I had not lacked information. I had rejected the person delivering it. You saw me move it? I asked. The first time. You said the dish wasn't safe because people came through the house. You put the ring with the medical things because you thought no one would touch them. Why didn't you stop me? I asked what you were doing. You told me not to worry. I had used those words whenever my mother questioned a decision I had already made. Don't worry about the bills. Don't worry about the appointment. Don't worry about the nurse. I thought I was lifting weight from her. I had also made the words into a door I could close. Did you ever say Tessa took the ring? No, I said she took it off my hand and put it in the dish. You decided the rest. The clinical manager explained that the agency would complete its review after receiving the full recording and my written statement. Tessa would remain temporarily reassigned. Another nurse would cover the necessary visits. If the complaint was resolved and my mother wanted Tessa back, the agency would discuss a revised plan with Tessa separately. No one asked the camera to diagnose me. They asked for the evidence I had and an accurate account of what I knew. I sent the continuous file while we were still on the call. Then I opened a blank message to the agency. I wrote that I was retracting my allegation against Tessa. I stated that the camera showed me removing the ring from the dish and carrying it to the pantry. I included both earlier caddy discoveries and my mother's statement that she had seen me move the ring the first time. I wrote that I had no memory of those actions. Rachel read the message before I sent it. You wrote that the video may show sleepwalking, she said. It may. Do you know that? No. I deleted the sentence. My retraction didn't close the review or put Tessa back on the case. It did something more immediate to me. It made it impossible to keep telling the story in a way that placed my fear ahead of the facts. After the call, Rachel went to make lunch. My mother stayed at the table, the ring between us. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, I said. You thought the stroke made me foolish. I thought some things might be harder to remember. My hand is harder to use. I get tired. Words come slower when too many people talk. None of that means I'm wrong whenever I disagree with you. I wanted to tell her that every decision had been made from love. I had slept in the hospital chair. I had fought an insurer for therapy approval. I had washed her hair and cut food into pieces when her right hand would not cooperate. None of those facts answered what she had just said. I was afraid something would happen if I stopped watching everything, I said. Something did happen. You stopped listening. She touched one of the 3 stones with her left index finger. If you can forget moving a ring, she said, what else are you deciding for me that you won't remember? The agency resolved the complaint 2 days later. It found no evidence that Tessa had taken or concealed the ring and confirmed that her verification prevented an unapproved change in care. My mother could request her return after a revised safety plan was completed. By then, Rachel had made an appointment for me with my primary care physician. I nearly canceled it twice. The first time, I told myself the night footage could have been a sleep event. The second time, I told myself exhaustion explained the emails and appointments. Either explanation might have mattered. Neither gave me permission to decide the answer before being evaluated. My physician watched the footage once. She asked whether the file was continuous, then turned away from the screen. This tells me what happened in the room, she said. It doesn't tell me why it happened in your brain. She reviewed sleep, medications, alcohol, mood, stress, and family history, then ordered routine tests for other conditions that could affect memory. Rachel described what she had observed, but the doctor directed every question about my experience back to me. She asked me to keep a sleep and event log and referred me to a memory specialist. Are you saying I have Alzheimer's? I asked. I'm saying memory symptoms can have many causes. We evaluate before we label. Dementia? You're managing many parts of your life independently. We're not making that diagnosis today. I heard only independently. Over the following weeks, the evaluation proceeded in pieces. At one visit, the specialist read me a short list of words. I repeated most of them. After other tasks and several minutes of conversation, she asked for the list again. I remembered only a few and supplied one word that had never been there. I said it with complete confidence. That moment was not a diagnosis by itself. It was one result among interviews, routine testing, daily function questions, my sleep log, Rachel's account of the schedules and appointment, and my mother's account of the ring. I still understood choices, reasoned through problems, and explained consequences. The weakness appeared when I had to retain certain new information after a delay. The specialist called it amnestic mild cognitive impairment. The cause was not yet determined. The diagnosis did not establish Alzheimer's disease or dementia. It did not declare me incompetent or automatically remove my rights. It identified an objective memory problem while much of my independence and judgment remained preserved. The specialist asked me to explain it back. I said the problem was real. The cause remained unknown, and preserved ability did not make safeguards unnecessary. Future visits would track changes in sleep, daily function, medications, mood, and safety. The missing minute remained unexplained, but it was no longer the only fact we were willing to see. Can I still drive? I asked. This diagnosis alone doesn't decide that. We consider your actual driving, sleep, daily function, and the rest of the evaluation. I volunteered to stop driving at night while the assessment continued. The decision was sensible and limited, and I held on to it as proof that I was still the person making reasonable choices. On the drive home, I repeated the words I wanted. Mild, independent, still capable. Rachel kept her eyes on the road. Those were some of the words. No one said I can't coordinate Mom's care. No one said nothing has to change. My mother was waiting at the dining table with a new medication lockbox and a folder from an elder law attorney. What is that? I asked. A choice. The specialist said I'm still capable. So am I. I didn't say you weren't. You acted as if I was. Rachel did not open the folder for her. My mother placed her left hand over it. Being capable means we can change this while both of us can choose, she said. The folder came from an attorney my mother had contacted with Rachel's help. No court or doctor had ordered it. She wanted to change who would speak for her about healthcare if she could not speak for herself in the future. The current document named me. I had treated that role as the natural result of being the reliable daughter. Now my mother was asking me to separate everything I had done from the authority I believed it earned. You want Rachel to replace me? I want Rachel as my primary healthcare surrogate, my mother said. Why her? My mother looked at Rachel before answering. Not because she knows more. She doesn't. Not because she'll never make a mistake. She will. I chose her because when she doesn't know, she stops. She asks me. Then she checks. Every quality she named was something I once considered proof of weakness. I had treated hesitation as incompetence and confidence as safety. The ring, the schedule, and the voicemail had reversed those meanings. She doesn't know half of what I know. Rachel looked down because that part was true. She wasn't there when the neurologist explained the discharge plan. She doesn't know which therapy company lost the first referral. She doesn't know how the insurance portal works or which number reaches a person instead of a recording. Then give her the records, my mother said. Records aren't experience. Neither is remembering something that didn't happen. I looked at Rachel. What happens when she makes a mistake? She lives 40 minutes away, I continued. She has work, a family, and no idea which office calls back or which one loses messages. What happens when Mom needs an answer and Rachel isn't here? My mother didn't pretend those problems would disappear. Then she asked for help. The agency has an on-call line. You have the records. I still have a voice. I'm choosing a system that can admit when one person isn't enough. I probably will, Rachel said. I'll write it down, tell someone, and verify it. That sounds simple when you haven't been making 100 decisions a day. It isn't simple. I should have been making more of them with you. But you weren't. No, I let being 40 minutes away become an excuse. I let you be the reliable one until neither of us checked whether the system was still reliable. Her admission did not make her experienced. It made her willing to expose the part of herself that had failed. I had spent a week doing the opposite. My mother reached across the table and put her left hand near mine without covering it. Claire, I know what you have done for me. I waited for the sentence that would preserve my place. You slept in the hospital chair. You argued with the insurer. You washed my hair when I could not lift my arm. You made food I didn't want and sat with me until I ate it. You kept track when I was too tired. I know." My eyes filled before I could stop them. "Then why would you take this away?" "Because love is not a safety system." She did not say I loved her badly. She did not erase the work. She separated that work from the right I believed it had earned me. I opened the proposed designation. Rachel was named as primary surrogate. The space for an alternate did not contain my name. A separate authorization would let me receive health information and participate as a care partner as long as my mother wanted it. I could attend appointments at her invitation. I could organize documents and ask questions. I would not hold future decision authority. Not even as the alternate? No? Because I moved a ring? Because you moved it, forgot, and decided my memory was the problem. Then you accused the person who wrote down what I said. There was no anger in her voice. Anger would have let me call the decision punishment. She was describing risk. The document did not require my approval, but I could make the change harder. I knew every password. I could delay transferring the records while claiming I needed time to organize them. I could challenge Rachel's preparation, question whether my mother was being pressured, or call the attorney with concerns phrased carefully enough to sound protective. That was the last form of control available to me. For several minutes I wanted it. My mother waited without asking permission. "What do you need from me?" I said. "The lockbox code, the current provider list, the calendar, the insurance log, and I need you to stop answering before I do." I brought the new lockbox from the console and placed it on the table. I wrote the code on the transfer sheet, then set a temporary code Rachel could replace. My hand remained on the card. The card was only paper. It held no legal authority. Still, letting go of it felt more final than sending the retraction. I released it. I opened the care folder and spent 2 hours transferring provider contacts, appointments, therapy notes, and insurance records. Rachel asked questions. My mother corrected preferences. We marked uncertain items for verification instead of choosing the version that sounded most confident. Rachel asked when the next therapy visit was. "Friday at 10, I said. The answer arrived with the familiar feeling of certainty. This time I stopped before treating certainty as evidence. I checked the portal. 11:30. The portal says 11:30. No one praised me. No one needed to. The correction was not a confession and it was not a cure. It was the new process. 2 days later, the attorney met privately with my mother at the house. Rachel and I waited on the patio. "Are you ready?" Rachel asked. "No, you could ask her for more time." "If Mom wants more time, she can say that. I won't use my fear to delay her choice." Inside, the attorney confirmed that my mother understood the designation, whom she had chosen, and when that authority would apply. My mother answered clearly. 2 adult witnesses were present, a neighbor and the attorney's assistant. Neither daughter served as a witness. My mother signed with her left hand because the right was still weak. Her signature was slower than the one on the old document, but it was hers. Rachel accepted the role. I signed nothing on the designation because there was nothing for me to approve. I signed the separate care partner paperwork authorizing me to receive information. That access remained hers to grant and hers to withdraw. After everyone left, Rachel placed copies in the care folder and sent one through the secure provider portal. I handed her the paper calendar, the current medication list, and the card with the lockbox code. Then I let go. It didn't feel noble. It felt like losing a job I had mistaken for an identity. The next morning I woke before my mother and reached automatically for the old lockbox. It was not in the cabinet. The new box sat on the console, and Rachel had already changed the temporary code. For one sharp second, I felt excluded from a life I had organized. Then my mother entered and asked whether I wanted to join her at the next therapy appointment. "Yes," I said. "What time is it?" She told me. I checked the shared calendar instead of correcting her. The times matched. I hadn't been cut out. The decision was back where it belonged, with her. The agency revised the care plan the following week. Instructions would be verified against records rather than memory, and the ring would stay in a lockbox controlled by my mother when swelling made it uncomfortable. The agency asked my mother whether she wanted Tessa back on her case. "Yes," she said. They asked Tessa separately. She agreed to return under the revised plan. On the morning of her first visit back, I considered leaving before she arrived. Staying felt like asking her to relieve my guilt. Leaving felt like avoiding the person whose name I had placed under suspicion. I stayed in the kitchen. Tessa arrived at 9. Her eyes moved from the camera notice to the new lockbox and Rachel's folder on the dining table. Her expression didn't change. She greeted my mother first. "Would you like me to stay?" she asked. My mother looked at her for a long moment. "Yes, I would." Tessa washed her hands and began the visit. She measured the swelling, asked about discomfort, and reviewed the verified schedule with Rachel. She did not look at me until my mother was settled in her chair. "Can I speak with you?" I asked. "For a minute?" We stood near the dining table where my mother could see us. "I accused you without evidence," I said. "I treated your notes as if they proved you were hiding something when they were protecting my mother. I dismissed what she told both of us. I sent the agency the full recording and a written retraction, but I know that doesn't undo what I said. I'm sorry." Tessa folded her hands. The complaint was serious. She did not soften the sentence for me. For several days she had entered other homes, knowing that my accusation existed in an agency file. Even after the review cleared her, she had been asked whether she was willing to return to the house where it began. "I know. Being scared doesn't make it less serious." "I know." She glanced toward my mother. "I'm here for your mother. We can start there." It wasn't forgiveness, it was a boundary, and it was more than I had earned. During the next hour, I watched the revised plan work without me at its center. Rachel read the verified schedule aloud. Tessa compared it with the agency record. My mother corrected the time she preferred for therapy exercises. When two entries did not match, no one selected the memory that sounded most certain. Rachel marked the question and called the provider. I felt the impulse to intervene several times. Once I was sure I knew the answer. "That appointment is in the afternoon," I said. Then I checked the record. "No, the note is right. I was remembering last week." Tessa made the correction without turning it into a lesson. My mother tried the ring after the swelling was measured. It passed over her knuckle, but the finger became uncomfortable within minutes. "Would you like to keep it on?" Tessa asked. "No, take it off." Tessa helped slide it free and placed it in my mother's palm. She did not carry it to the lockbox. My mother crossed the room, opened the box, set the ring inside, and turned the key with her left hand. She kept the key. When the visit ended, Rachel walked Tessa to the door. I began gathering the papers from the dining table out of habit. "Leave them," my mother said. I stopped. "Rachel has a system." My first response was ready. I could color code the folder. I could remove duplicate pages. I could make the system faster. Instead, I placed the sheet in my hand back on the table. "All right." My mother sat near the window. The chair beside her was still covered with my last folder, a charger, and the notebook I had divided into categories for her recovery. I cleared them away and started toward the kitchen. "Claire." I turned. She touched the empty chair. "Sit with me." I sat. For a while, neither of us talked about appointments, medication, insurance, or memory. She took the ring box into her lap and told me about the 3 stones. My father had chosen the first when they married. He added the second after I was born and the third after Rachel. She paused between each part of the story, looking toward his photograph as though she could still see the day attached to each stone. I let the pauses remain empty. They belonged to her as much as the words did. I had heard the story before. I knew which stone was mine. This time I didn't finish the story for her. Sunlight moved across the box in her lap. The camera remained on the shelf, visible and silent. I had installed it to prove that danger had entered my mother's house wearing someone else's face. It had shown me my own. The camera hadn't proved that I loved my mother less. It had proved that love was no longer enough to make me the only person allowed to decide.